Hi, in this lesson you're going to learn how to use the Community Event Builder application for ArcGIS Online. The application was built so that departments within city or county government can create public functions in a map-based format, and then those map layers can be reused on public safety systems so that public safety responders know which roads have been blocked, what's the best way in and out, maybe say when there's a parade going on. Those map layers can also be used to create other products for the event, such as this one, which was a printable map for the Great Fire of 1892 event that was held in Woodland this year, 2017. It has features like a QR code to access a walking application, and that application was also used the same layers from the Community Event Builder. This is the public walking application, so people can measure distance, print, get driving directions, they can zoom in, they can click on different things that have been loaded by the person who built the actual event in the Community Event Builder. So today we're going to actually show you how to use the Community Event Builder. It's actually a really simple system. And when you actually have the URL, you'll just put it in. It's a public-facing website. At the end of this recording in the learning system, there'll actually be a QR code and the full URL so that you can have it and reuse it. And this is the first screen that comes up, which is the Event Coordination Building screen. In order to build an event, you first have to create the event itself so that it shows up in these filters. You'll notice that there's only 2 right now, which are some of the demo data that we had this year when we built the application. So in order for somebody to build all your roadblocks, sound stages, and all that, they have to be able to filter for the name of your event. So that's the first step. So you want to start out by having this field be blank, like it is now, and you just hit the apply button on the blank field. That way the system knows that you're not trying to filter on a previous event, like say the 2 that were listed in there. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a new event by going to the event editor, which is the second icon over. You'll notice once the event editor actually loads, there's all kinds of things in here. The first thing you have to do is build this community event so that it shows up in the filter for whoever you're assigning the rest of this project to, because we're not assuming that one person is doing all of this. So I'm going to actually create an event for the city of Winters in Yolo County, California. And I'm going to create an event for a car show down there on Main Street. So I'm just going to start by zooming in so that I can see a little bit more of the streets. In here you can either build off of the street view like this, or you can go up to the base map gallery and ask it to provide you imagery if you're looking for a very specific building. I am going to build off of street names because I know that my event needs to be on Main Street, because that's where we're going to end up basically closing for this event. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab the community event icon and drop it somewhere here on Main Street. There's Main Street, right near Railroad, because we're going to end up closing the street from basically Railroad to 4th for this. We're going to call it a classic car show. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop my point on there by clicking on there. You're going to assign it a number that means something to you. So if you have a computer system that issues permits and things, you may want to use those numbers so that it's linkable to your permitting system later on. I'm just making up a number for demonstration purposes. It's going to be a classic car show there on Main Street. I'm going to give it a category of auto or motorcycle. You can give it a description here. Monthly classic car show. You can fill in as much or as little of this stuff as you want. None of it is actually a mandated field, but the more you put in, the more you can maybe reuse some of that data in the future. So I'm just filling in a couple of these since it's multiple blocks of Main Street. I'm not going to put in necessarily a specific address. It is in the city of Winters. You can put a familiar location, like, starts at the Buckhorn Steakhouse. And I'm just going to put Yolo County because, of course, Winters is in Yolo County. So you can continue filling in the rest of these fields. Sponsors the city of Winters. We're going to make the city manager the contact for this. So I can go ahead and put in the city's phone number. I could put in a contact email. I can also put in the start and end time for the event as a whole. So that can include setup time as well. So let's just make it for this coming Friday. And I'm gonna choose that we're going to probably not want to shut down Main Street during the day. So our shutdown's gonna start around 3 p.m. for an event that starts at 4 p.m. in theory. And then we're probably going to tear that down. The people in Winters are going to be people who stay up a little bit later, have a good time. So we're going to not tear down until 11. We're going to assume that that event closes at 10. You can note whether it's an annual event. You can note whether it's open to the public. All of these things will populate for the public, especially if you're making a public walking map like that first one I showed you. So we've just put a lot of fields in here that you can go through and select whether things are happening. There's also a lot of free type fields so that you can add more information for the people who are coming to your event, whatever have you. So you'll keep going through, filling in as much as you want. I like to put the price tag in there because we have a lot of free events in Yolo County. And then the date submitted, I'm just going to put today's date. Now, if you're a permitting department in one of our cities, you can actually go through this and you can change things to be whether they've just been submitted, whether they've been approved, whether they've been denied, whatever you want to match the permitting system. I'm going to go ahead and streamline this and just say that we've already had the submission, we've approved it, and we're just building it out kind of so we have it in map format. I'm going to set the archive permission to yes so that it keeps it when it does its archive. And if you had, say, a flyer for your classic car event, you can upload that as a file. I always recommend a PDF. That way, if you want to put this map on your website as advertisement, then somebody can click right on that attachment and see the flyer for the classic car show. So we're going to go ahead and hit save on this, and that basically creates our event in the system. So that's as hard as it is to create an event. So in theory, you can actually close this, come back to it another day. You could assign it to another person in your department to work on. And so what's going to happen when they come in, they're going to use the same URL that you use to access the community event builder. So they'll just open up their web browser and let the event builder load again. And so here's the community event builder now with your actual event name in here. So there's the classic car show now. It wasn't in the drop down previously. So let's say if you've assigned this to somebody in your department to build out the classic car show, what they want to do is they want to pick the event that they're building out and hit apply on those settings, because that tells the system that everything they're going to be putting in is for this classic car show here on Main Street. You'll notice it even zoomed in to where we had dropped that little event icon before when we built out the event. So now that I have the classic car show in there and I've hit apply for it to keep those, I'm going to move over to the event editor again, just the same way that I built the community event itself. But instead of building the community event, now I'm going to be able to assign assets and routes and event areas to my event. So some of the first things that we want to do is we want to block off the street. So maybe we're going to block off Main Street right at Railroad because everybody's going to be lining up on Main Street. And usually what you want to do is you'll notice the classic car show event name pre-populates because you've told the computer you want it to do that. Everything else is however much you want to put in, so just like before. And we can actually force it to keep a lot of these changes, so you only have to type them in once. So for time setup, especially on barricades, they might be set up a little earlier than the event. So we had said that the event was going to start at 4 p.m. But we had made the whole event start at 3 because we want to set these barricades up as early as 3, get the street all closed down. And then again, we're gonna go ahead and take those barricades out and open the street back up at 11 p.m. So the status on this is gonna be approved. We're just streamlining it again, just like before. We're gonna hit yes. And we're gonna hit save on this. So that puts that community event asset into where this dot is. So you'll notice when I hit back to go back to the event editor, there's my roadblock. So that's a way of adding an item and typing everything in. Now remember I told you that we can actually streamline some of this, and that's by using this use preset values for new features. So we can actually go in and type in our things that we want to be on almost everything just this one time, so we aren't having to retype them. So again, I'm just doing what I did before, where I'm just picking all of the event start and finish times, and do be pretty cognitive of this because some things may be set up earlier or taken down later depending on what they were. And this can be a really good app you can give to your field personnel so that they know what time they're supposed to be doing something and they don't have to ask you as many questions about it. So here, if I put all of those same items that I've been typing in into the preset values, now I can just go ahead and click on icons and put a barricade here, save that, go back, because we're trying to close off First Street, so at Main, so we're gonna need barricades on both sides of First Street, basically. So this is something that you would maybe tell your public works or your roads crew so that they know exactly where the barricades are gonna go. So you can keep filling this in to be able to close this street off for the event. And I'm not going to do a ton more. There's all kinds of event assets in here. You can put a first aid station so that on your public map people know where they can go to get maybe water or something if it's one of our lovely triple-digit days here in Sacramento area. There's food concessions. We even have added a beer and wine tasting right there, my all-time favorite, beer and wine tasting, because we grow a lot of wine grapes here in Yolo County. So you can build your event out and keep adding these points. The other two features I want to draw your attention to, though, are the lines in the areas. So they're called routes. The line features are called routes in here. And if I zoom in, maybe if we're going to, say, have a little short kid parade from, we'll call it just from Railroad to First, I can actually go in here and pick an event route. I can start it and I can end it at the end. And you want to double click on the end. And so location description instead of Main Street on this one might be Kids Parade. And I'll save that. Other things that you can do in here, you can draw areas. There's all kinds of predetermined perimeters in here that you can have. So I can say that we're going to have bus service that's going to drop people off right here on the side of railroad. And once you just double click, it'll finish that. I can even put that this bus is going to be handicap accessible for all of our access and functional needs patrons. I can go over and mark off where parking is going to be. So this might be one of those instances where you want to change the base map, because I know that there's a parking lot across the street. But if you have a hard time knowing exactly where that parking area is, I can change that to imagery instead of the street map, and now I can clearly see the parking lot here for the community center. So I can tell everybody who's coming here that the parking lot at the community center is going to be used for this event. So we'll just do some rough drawing on here. And again, I'm just clicking pretty much anywhere there's an edge of grass, which is why the imagery feature might be good to do a parking layer here. And then I'm going to double click when I'm done, and there's your parking. So you can say public parking, $3. Because again, this is something that you can open up to the public, so you want to put as much information in there as possible, so when the pop-ups work, then they can see that there's actually paid parking there this time. So that's basically how to build an event in the event builder. Again, this is something we would love all the cities to do, probably the community development departments, the people who issue permits for public events. That way public safety can use all of these layers in their mobile dispatch consoles, things of that nature. 911 can have access to these layers. And just to kind of show you what a really large event, obviously this is very, very small what I built here, but if I want to switch back over to the filter and change from the car show to picnic day at UC Davis campus, it'll take a second to zoom out and move over to Davis, and you can see the restrooms all over the city have been marked. We have bus routes, that's the blue lines here. Those were specialized bus routes for picnic day. The green routes were a parade along with all the associated road closures. We have drinking fountains, event signs, information kiosks, first aid locations, and all of these things are clickable. So if you click on it, you can see that this is a first aid station being manned by American Medical Response, and that's their tent, what time it's going up, what time it's coming down. So all of these things can be on somebody's phone. They can zoom in with their fingers, they can click on things, they can see where they are if they enable their location services so that they can actually get directions to the next thing. So it's really just a really great tool to use. So we encourage all cities and county departments that may be setting up or planning one of these events to use this brand new ArcGIS online application.